Amid skyscrapers and empty routines, a wealthy father realizes he doesn't know his own son. Disguised as a driver, he discovers that his new wife is the hidden face of a daily nightmare. The cameras confirm it. Screams, shoves, and a cruel plan to destroy the child's only bond of affection. But from silence, courage is born, and with it a new family where love and justice walk hand in hand. Marcus Kingston's office occupied the 30th floor of one of the most imposing buildings on Grand Central Avenue. From there, Viridian City looked like a grey sea of concrete that stretched as far as the eye could see. Before him, on the solid mahogany desk, lay architectural plans for another billion-dollar development by Kingston Construction, a company that had erected some of the main landmarks of the Viridian City metropolis over the past 15 years. Mr. Kingston, the driver just called. He had a car problem and won't be able to pick up Raphael from school today, announced Sandra, his secretary, through the half-open door. Marcus checked his watch. 3:30 in the afternoon. The meeting with the foreign investors would begin in 15 minutes and could not be postponed. Call Christina, please. Ask her to pick up Raphael. Mrs. Christina left for the foundation's charity tea. She said she wouldn't be back until tonight. Marcus took a deep breath. Christina, his wife of 8 months, lived a frantic social agenda, always impeccably dressed and made up for Viridian City's high society events, a dazzling woman who caused envy wherever she went. Their marriage had been quick, a providential encounter when he was still trying to recover from the devastating blow of losing Helen, his first wife, during Raphael's birth. Cancel the meeting. I'll pick up my son. But sir, the Japanese came all this way and reschedule it, Sandra. My son comes first. On the drive between Grand Central Avenue and Horizon College in the Garden District, Marcus reflected on how quickly time had passed. Raphael would turn 8 next month. A quiet, introspective boy who had needed crutches since birth due to a congenital complication that affected his legs. Marcus always wondered if his son had inherited his mother's reserved temperament, or if it was a result of his physical limitations and early loss. In recent months, however, Raphael seemed different, even quieter, almost absent. Marcus attributed it to adapting to his new mother, although Christina always appeared attentive when he was around, organizing surprise parties, buying expensive gifts, preparing elaborate snacks. He just needs time, she would repeat, with that perfect smile framed by red lips. Arriving at school, he found Raphael sitting alone on a bench in the courtyard, clutching his backpack, his small body almost disappearing inside the navy blue uniform. His crutches rested beside him. "Hi, champ. Dad came to pick you up today," he announced, trying to sound cheerful. Raphael looked up, surprised. A shy smile appeared but quickly vanished. "Where's Mrs. Lucia?" he asked, referring to the oldest employee in the house, who often picked him up when neither Marcus nor Christina could. "It's her day off today, remember? Come on, I'll help you with your backpack." In the car, silence reigned. Raphael kept his gaze fixed on the window, watching the city pass by. "How was school today?" Marcus tried. "Normal. Did you learn anything cool?" "No." "Want to stop for ice cream before we go home?" The boy just shook his head negatively. Marcus sighed. Conversations between them were becoming increasingly difficult. "Son," he said, adjusting the rearview mirror to better see the boy's face, "is everything all right at home? Are you and Christina getting along when I'm not there?" Raphael shrugged and lowered his head. "You can tell Dad the truth. I won't be angry." "It's fine," the boy murmured, but his voice betrayed otherwise. When they arrived at the mansion in Belgravia Heights, Christina had not yet returned. Lucia, the housekeeper who had worked for the family since before Raphael's birth, greeted them at the door. Her tired eyes, those of a woman in her 60s, seemed to hide something Marcus couldn't decipher. "You're home early today." "Sir," she commented, helping Raphael with his backpack. "I cancelled a meeting. I need to spend more time with my son." Lucia nodded, with an expression that mixed relief and concern. "Raphael has been so quiet lately," Marcus commented, watching his son slowly climb the stairs with the help of his crutches, his small figure reflected in the gleaming marble floor. "Children that age change moods quickly." "Dr. Kingston," Lucia replied, averting her gaze. "Would you like some coffee?" During dinner, Christina arrived exuberant in her party dress, exuding expensive perfume and carrying bags from international designer brands. "Darling," You won't believe who I met at the event. Patricia Miller, the one whose son is in the same class as Raphael. We arranged lunch next week. She's a sweetheart and her boy William seems lovely. It would be great if Raphael made more friends, wouldn't it? Marcus noticed how his son flinched in his chair upon hearing William's name. Something wasn't right. Son, do you know this William? Are you friends? Marcus asked. Before Raphael could answer, Christina intervened. Of course they are. Patricia always mentions how her son talks about Raphael. Aren't you, darling? She said, addressing her stepson with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Raphael kept his gaze fixed on his plate, mechanically moving his fork without actually eating. Can I go upstairs? I have homework, he finally murmured. But you barely touched your food, Marcus observed. Let him, love. Christina placed her hand on Marcus's. If he has homework, it's better he does it. Education first, I always say. Raphael got up with difficulty, leaning on his crutches. As he passed Christina, Marcus noticed that his son subtly moved away, as if avoiding any physical contact with his stepmother. Later, after Raphael had fallen asleep, and Christina was taking her prolonged bubble bath, Marcus went to the kitchen, where Lucia was organizing the final details before retreating to her room in the back of the property. Lucia, I need to ask you something and I want you to be honest. The housekeeper froze, her wrinkled hands suspended over the sink. You've been my employer for almost 20 years. I've never lied. Is something happening with Raphael? Something I should know? Silence weighed between them. Lucia seemed to be struggling internally. What do you mean, sir? He's different. More withdrawn. He barely speaks, hardly eats. At first I thought it was adaptation to the new marriage, but 8 months have passed, and he seems to get worse every day. If you know something, Dr. Kingston, she chose her words carefully, sometimes children do take a long time to get used to changes. And poor Raphael, he's been through so much in his young life. Does it have something to do with Christina? He pressed. Lucia averted her gaze. It's not my place to speak of your wife, sir. Lucia, please. We're talking about my son. The housekeeper took a deep breath. You spend a lot of time away from home, at the office, on trips. Perhaps you should observe more. That's all I can say. That night, lying beside Christina, who was sleeping deeply after taking her insomnia pill, Marcus stared at the ceiling. Lucia's words echoed in his mind. Observe more. What did she mean? The next day, during breakfast, Marcus announced a decision that surprised everyone. I need to go on a business trip tomorrow. I'll be away for a week. A week? Christina questioned, visibly displeased. But we have the charity dinner on Saturday. It's unavoidable, he cut in, carefully observing Raphael's reaction. The boy kept his eyes down, but Marcus noticed how his small fingers tightly gripped the handle of his crutches. Don't worry, champ. Christina and Lucia will take good care of you. And I'll call every day. Raphael nodded in silence, a silence that now seemed to scream at Marcus. Later, as he drove his son to school, Marcus made a decision that would change everything. There would be no trip. On the contrary, for the first time in years, he would do something he should have done long ago. Be truly present in his son's life, even if it meant becoming invisible. The driver, John, had a personal problem. I sent another in his place. A trusted substitute, Marcus explained to the school coordinator the next morning. Wearing a simple uniform, a baseball cap pulled low, and dark sunglasses that partially disguised his face, Marcus was now just Mr. Paul, the new temporary driver. An ordinary man, invisible to most people accustomed to seeing only uniforms, not faces. You need to sign here, said the reception employee, pushing a clipboard with the authorization form. Marcus signed with a different handwriting than usual. His heart pounded as if he were committing a crime, but he repeated to himself that this was for Raphael. He needed to know the truth. He waited patiently in the courtyard, watching the other children run and play during recess. He located Raphael sitting alone on a secluded bench, his crutches beside him, flipping through a book. Periodically the boy would raise his vigilant eyes, like a small animal that had learned to fear predators. Marcus had to control the impulse to go to him. When the bell rang, signaling the end of classes, Marcus positioned himself alongside the other drivers and nannies. Raphael appeared, walking slowly with his crutches, escorted by a young woman in a simple uniform, probably someone from the cleaning or monitoring staff. "Go carefully, Raphael. Tomorrow you can tell me if you like the book I lent you, okay?" she said with a gentle smile, adjusting his backpack. "I promise." "Miss Isabella," Raphael replied, showing an animation Marcus rarely saw at home. When Raphael approached, Marcus knelt to be at his son's eye level. "Hi, Raphael. I'm Paul. I'll take you home today. Because John couldn't come." The boy looked at him suspiciously. "Where's Mrs. Lucia?" "Your stepmother called to say she had to go to the doctor." "Shall we go?" On the way, Marcus maintained his disguise, speaking little and observing his son through the rearview mirror. Raphael seemed lost in thought, his face burdened with a worry no child should know. "Do you like school, Raphael?" Marcus asked, trying to sound casual. "More or less." "Why only more or less?" Raphael hesitated, fiddling with his backpack strap. "There's a boy there, William. He doesn't like me." "And what does he do?" "He says I'm crippled, that nobody likes me. He hides my crutches sometimes." Raphael's voice was almost a whisper. "His mother is friends with Aunt Christina." Marcus gripped the steering wheel tightly. How had he never known this? "And have you told your father about this?" Raphael shook his head negatively. "Aunt Christina said that men don't cry or complain. That my dad would be ashamed of me if he knew I couldn't defend myself." A cold rage formed in Marcus's stomach. Christina had never mentioned such a parenting philosophy in his presence. On the contrary, she always appeared solicitous and maternal when he was around. "And how does your stepmother treat you when your father isn't home?" The question hung in the air for a few moments. Raphael looked out the window as if seeking an escape. "Can I trust you?" he finally asked, his voice so low Marcus had to strain to hear. "Of course, Raphael." The boy took a deep breath. "When my dad leaves, she changes. She yells at me, says I'm a burden, that my dad only married her because he needed someone to take care of his defective son." Marcus felt as if he had been punched in the stomach, but he maintained his composure so as not to scare his son. "Has she done anything besides yell?" Raphael lowered his voice even further. "She hides my crutches when she's angry. Says it's so I learn to walk properly. Once she locked me in my room all day when my dad traveled. Said it was so no one would have to look at me." A tear rolled down the boy's cheek. "She says if I tell my dad, no one will believe me. That she's beautiful and important, and I'm just a crippled boy." At that moment, Marcus almost revealed his identity, almost stopped the car to hug his son and beg forgiveness for his blindness. But he knew he needed concrete evidence. Christina's word against a child's would be insufficient if she denied everything. "And Mrs. Lucia, does she know about this?" "Mrs. Lucia helps me when she can. She returns my crutches, brings food to my room when I'm locked in. But Aunt Christina threatens to fire her if she interferes." Upon arriving at the mansion, Christina greeted them at the gate, impeccably dressed as always. Her smile disappeared when she saw Marcus instead of the usual driver. "What does this mean?" "Where's John?" she asked, confused. Marcus removed his sunglasses and cap, revealing his identity. Christina's face paled momentarily, but she quickly composed herself, her professional smile back on her lips. "Marcus, what a fright. I thought you were on a trip." "Why are you dressed like that?" "I decided to cancel the trip," he replied coldly, "and I wanted to surprise Raphael." Christina quickly shifted into her role as a loving wife, hugging him and kissing his cheek. "How wonderful, darling." "We missed you so much, didn't we, Raphael?" The boy nodded automatically, his gaze fixed on the floor. "Raphael, darling, go take your bath while I talk to your father, okay?" Christina said with performative sweetness. When the boy went inside, leaning on his crutches, Christina turned to Marcus. "What kind of joke was that, Marcus? You scared me." "And this disguise? It looks like something from a movie." "We needed to talk about Raphael," he replied, maintaining a neutral tone. "Oh yes, I was just about to call you about that. I'm worried. He's been so withdrawn. I think we should take him to a child psychologist." Marcus observed Christina's every move, every rehearsed expression, every carefully chosen word. "Would you say you have a good relationship with him when I'm not home?" An almost imperceptible shadow crossed her face. "Of course, darling. I do everything for that boy. He's like my own son. And what about his crutches? Do you think they're important for his independence?" Christina hesitated for a millisecond. "Obviously. Why such a strange question? Just checking, he said, feigning a smile. I'm going upstairs to see how he is. That night, when everyone was asleep, Marcus executed the second part of his plan. With the help of a trusted technician, he discreetly installed cameras at strategic points in the house: the living room, hallway, kitchen, and common areas. No intimate spaces, only the locations where family life took place. It's for the family's security, he justified to the technician, who asked no questions. After all, surveillance systems in mansions were common in Viridian City. The next day, Marcus announced at breakfast, "Christina, an emergency has come up with the Westminster Downs project. I need to go there today, but I'll be back tomorrow night." "So soon, darling? You just got here and you're leaving again." "Unfortunately, business doesn't wait." He turned to his son. "Raphael, behave, all right? Christina will take care of you." The look of panic on the boy's face almost made Marcus give up, but he needed to be sure. He left the house, but he didn't go to Westminster Downs. He settled into a reserved suite at a nearby hotel, from where he could access the camera footage on his laptop. In the first few hours, nothing abnormal. Christina on the phone, organizing social engagements. Raphael quietly in his room doing homework. Lucia preparing lunch in the kitchen. It was in the early afternoon that everything changed. As soon as Lucia left to do some shopping, Christina went up to Raphael's room. Through the audio from the camera in the hallway, Marcus clearly heard, "Raphael, come here now." The boy appeared at the door, leaning on his crutches. "What's this mess in your room? How many times do I have to tell you I don't want to see these crutches lying around?" "Sorry, Aunt Christina, I was just—" The sound of a slap cut off the boy's explanation. Marcus felt his blood run cold. "Don't interrupt me when I'm talking." Christina's voice was unrecognizable, devoid of any feigned sweetness. "Your father isn't here to protect you now. I want this room immaculate in 10 minutes, without all this junk in sight." Christina snatched the crutches from Raphael's hands, and he lost his balance and fell to the floor. "Get up. Let's see if that teaches you to be normal." She left the room, taking the crutches, leaving Raphael on the floor. The boy dragged himself with difficulty to the bed, pulling himself up with effort, silent tears streaming down his face. Marcus closed the laptop, unable to watch anymore. A mixture of guilt, anger, and horror overwhelmed him. How had he allowed his son to suffer like this, under his own roof? How had he not noticed? That same afternoon, without warning, he returned home. Christina's car wasn't in the garage. She had probably left for one of her social engagements. He found Lucia in the kitchen, her face tense with worry. "Dr. Kingston, weren't you coming back tomorrow?" Where's Raphael, Lucia?" "In his room, sir, Mrs. Christina." She hesitated. "I know everything, Lucia. Why did you never tell me?" The housekeeper's eyes filled with tears. "I tried, sir, several times. But you were always so busy, and she threatened to fire me. Said no one would believe me against her. I was afraid of losing my job and not being able to protect the boy anymore." Marcus nodded, guilt growing in his chest. He quickly went up to Raphael's room. He found his son huddled in bed without his crutches. "Dad?" Surprise and relief mingled on the small face. Marcus sat on the bed and hugged his son, feeling the small body tremble. "Where are your crutches, son?" "Aunt Christina put them away. She said she'd only give them back when you came home." Marcus took a deep breath, suppressing his anger. "Raphael, I want you to know something. Yesterday when I picked you up from school dressed as a driver, it wasn't a joke. I needed to know the truth about how you were being treated." The boy's eyes widened. "You were Mr. Paul?" "Yes, and I heard everything you told me in the car." "I believe you, son, and this is going to end today." Raphael hugged his father tightly as if afraid he would disappear. "She's going to be angry." "Don't worry about that. She will never hurt you or make you feel bad again. I promise." At that moment, they heard the sound of Christina's car arriving. Marcus stood up, determined. "Stay here. I'll handle this." He went downstairs, prepared for the confrontation that would change their lives forever. Christina entered through the front door, carrying shopping bags, her high heels echoing on the marble floor. Seeing Marcus standing in the center of the living room, she dropped the bags. "Marcus!" "What a fright! Weren't you coming back tomorrow?" Her usual smile froze as she noticed the expression on her husband's face. "Where are Raphael's crutches?" he asked, his voice controlled but laden with suppressed fury. Christina blinked, confused, and then forced a smile. Oh, darling, they're in the hallway closet. The boy left them scattered around the house. You know how disorganized he is. I put them away to avoid accidents. Disorganized or crippled? What's the term you use when I'm not around? Christina's smile completely vanished. Her eyes quickly calculated an escape. What are you talking about? I would never... I saw everything, Christina. Marcus pulled out his phone and played a video. Christina yelling at Raphael, taking his crutches, leaving him fallen on the floor. I installed cameras throughout the house. I have hours of footage showing how you treat my son when you think no one is watching. Her face transformed into a mask of fury. You had no right. That's an invasion of privacy. No, Christina. That's protection for a defenseless child. My son, whom you swore to love and care for. Love? She laughed bitterly. Did you really think I would love a defective boy who isn't even mine? Do you think I dreamed my whole life of being a nanny to a cripple? Marcus took a step forward, his face contorted with rage. Never speak of him like that again. Or what? You'll hit me? She challenged. And then I'll be the one with a police report for domestic violence. Who do you think they'll believe? Me, the abused wife, or you, the violent businessman? I don't need to touch you to destroy you, Christina. I have enough evidence to sue you for child abuse, parental alienation, and psychological abuse. Christina's confidence wavered for a moment, but she quickly regained her composure. No one will believe you. I have influential friends. Society adores me. Everyone knows how dedicated I am to children's causes. She approached, her voice now lower, almost seductive. We can resolve this between us, Marcus. It was just a moment of stress. You know how difficult it is to deal with a special child. Get out of my house now. What? You have an hour to pack your things and disappear. What you don't take today will be donated. And if you try to approach my son again, I'll use everything I have against you. Christina narrowed her eyes, the mask of sweetness completely abandoned. This won't end here. You don't know who you're dealing with. Actually, I'm only just finding out. Now get out before I call the police. As Christina went upstairs to collect her belongings, Lucia appeared with Raphael at the top of the stairs. The boy was pale, clinging to the crutches the housekeeper had retrieved for him. He heard everything, Dr. Kingston, Lucia whispered. I couldn't stop him. Marcus quickly went upstairs and hugged his son. It's all right now, champ. She won't hurt you anymore. Raphael buried his face in his father's shoulder, his small shoulders shaking with tears repressed for so long. I tried to be a good boy. Dad, I really tried. You are the best boy in the world, Raphael, and I'm so sorry I didn't realize what was happening sooner. While Christina packed her bags, Marcus took Raphael to the kitchen. Lucia prepared hot chocolate, trying to bring some comfort to the situation. Son, why did you never tell me? Raphael looked at the steaming mug, avoiding his father's eyes. She said you wouldn't believe me, that you liked her more than me. The words struck Marcus like a dagger. How had he failed so terribly? That was never true, Raphael. You are the most important person in my life. Always have been, always will be. Forgive me for not being here to protect you. The boy nodded, still not looking at his father. I promise that from now on I'll be more present. I'll take you to and pick you up from school whenever I can. We'll spend more time together. An hour later, Christina came downstairs with 3 enormous suitcases. Her face was composed as if nothing had happened. I'll send my lawyer to discuss the terms of the separation, she said coldly, completely ignoring Raphael's presence. Do as you wish. But remember, I have evidence. Lots of evidence. After she left, the house seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, as if a weight had been removed. That night, Marcus sat beside Raphael's bed for a bedtime story. Something he hadn't done in months. Dad, is Aunt Christina coming back? No, son. She won't live with us anymore. Never again. Never again. Raphael was silent for a few moments, processing the information. Ms. Isabella from school said that not all people are what they seem to be, that some are beautiful on the outside but ugly on the inside. Ms. Isabella, that young woman who walked you to the door yesterday? Yes, she's part of the cleaning staff, but she also helps during recess. She always talks to me, lends me books. She was the one who spoke to the principal when William pushed me down the stairs last week. Marcus felt a new shock. You fell down the stairs? Why didn't anyone tell me? Raphael shrugged. William's mom is friends with Aunt Christina. She told the principal it was just boys playing. Aunt Christina agreed. The next day, Marcus decided to personally take Raphael to school. On the way, the boy was visibly more relaxed, talking about a book Ms. Isabella had lent him. She said I could be a writer someday. Dad, that I have imagination. And what do you think about that? I think it's cool. I can create stories where everyone can run and play, even those who use crutches. Upon arriving at school, Marcus made a point of going to the principal's office. Good morning. Dr. Kingston, greeted Principal Davies, an elegant woman in her 50s. How can I help you? I want to discuss two urgent matters. The bullying my son has been suffering from the student William Miller, and last week's incident when he was pushed down the stairs. The principal seemed uncomfortable. That misunderstanding. Mrs. Miller already clarified that it was just children playing. Your wife agreed that it wasn't a case for disciplinary measures. Ex-wife, Marcus corrected. And I completely disagree. I want to see the security camera footage of that incident, and I want a meeting with the boys' parents and the school board. Dr. Kingston, we have to be careful with these accusations. The Miller family is very influential on the parent council, and I am the largest donor to the foundation that supports this institution's scholarships, Marcus completed, his voice hard. I am asking to see the recordings of an incident involving my son. It is my legal right. Reluctantly, the principal activated the security system. The images were clear. William, a boy considerably larger than Raphael, deliberately pushing him as he descended the stairs with his crutches. Raphael fell and hit his head, remaining motionless for a few seconds before a young staff member ran to help him. That's Isabella, Raphael pointed out, watching the images beside his father. Isabella in the recording confronted the aggressor boy while helping Raphael up. Soon after, the principal and an elegant woman, presumably William's mother, appeared, gesticulating and clearly downplaying the incident. This is not a game, Principal Davies. It's assault, Marcus said, controlling his anger. And I want to know why I wasn't informed that my son was injured at school. Your wife, ex-wife, specifically asked that we not bother you with it. She said you were in an important negotiation and that she would take care of everything. As of today, any communication about my son must be made directly with me, and I want a meeting with the disciplinary board to discuss the student William's situation. Bullying is a crime, and this school has a legal responsibility to ensure the safety of all students. Upon leaving the principal's office, Marcus looked for Isabella. He found her in the courtyard, organizing materials for the morning activities. Ms. Isabella? She turned around. She was a young woman of approximately 25, with curly hair pulled back in a simple bun, wearing the support staff uniform. Her eyes reflected intelligence and kindness. Yes, I'm Marcus Kingston, Raphael's father. She smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. Raphael talks a lot about you, sir. He says his father builds buildings so tall they almost touch the clouds. Marcus felt a pang in his chest. His son still admired him despite everything. I wanted to thank you for taking care of him, for being attentive when I wasn't. Her smile lessened slightly. Raphael is a special child, Mr. Kingston. Intelligent, sensitive, creative. He deserves to be protected. I saw the recordings of the incident on the stairs. You confronted the boy who pushed him. Isabella blushed slightly. I did what anyone would do. I couldn't let it pass. But you were the only one who did something. The principal, the other boy's mother, my ex-wife, all preferred to pretend it wasn't serious. Sometimes people prefer convenience to truth, she said, with a wisdom that seemed beyond her age, especially when the truth demands action. Raphael told me you lent him books, that you encourage him to write. He has talent, an incredible imagination. He writes beautiful stories about a world where no one is excluded for being different. Marcus felt his eyes sting. How much of his son had he missed by being so focused on building concrete empires? I'd like to thank you properly. Perhaps coffee after work? Isabella seemed surprised, then suspicious. Mr. Kingston, I appreciate the invitation, but it's not necessary. I don't do this expecting a reward. It's not a reward. It's a sincere thank you from a father who is trying to correct his mistakes. She studied him for a few moments, as if assessing his sincerity. All right, but nothing too fancy, please. Fancy places make me uncomfortable. I know an excellent bakery 2 blocks from here. Simple, but with the best cheese bread in the city. That sounds perfect, she agreed with a discreet smile. That afternoon, Marcus received an unexpected call. It was from Christina's lawyer, Mr. Kingston. My client is willing to pursue an amicable separation, provided she receives adequate compensation for the duration of the marriage and for the emotional damages caused by her expulsion from the marital home. Emotional damages. Marcus almost laughed. Tell your client that I have hours of recordings showing her mistreating a child with special needs. If she wants to pursue this, it won't just be a divorce but a criminal case. You recorded your wife without her consent? That's a crime. I recorded a criminal abusing my son in my own home. Any judge will understand that I acted in defense of a vulnerable child. I suggest you advise your client to disappear quietly. Before I decide to use these recordings. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I will contact you again after consulting my client. Upon hanging up, Marcus felt a mixture of relief and determination. For the first time in years, he had clarity about his priorities. Raphael came first, always. And from that moment on, nothing and no one would hurt him again. While organizing some documents, he noticed Lucia's strange movements in the hallway. The housekeeper seemed agitated, looking for something. Is something wrong, Lucia? She hesitated, visibly disturbed. Dr. Kingston. A set of Mrs. Helen's jewelry is missing, the ones you kept in the bedroom safe. I found the box empty. What do you mean? Was the safe open? No, sir. It was closed as always. I just went to clean and noticed the box was lighter. Marcus frowned. Only 3 people knew the safe's combination. Him, Lucia, and Christina. At that moment, the phone rang again. It was the condominium doorman. Mr. Kingston, the police are here. They say they have a search warrant. A search warrant? For what reason? Marcus questioned, incredulous. Report of jewelry theft, sir. The complainant is your wife, Mrs. Christina. A trap. Marcus felt his blood run cold. If Christina had taken the jewelry from the safe before leaving, she could only have one objective, to incriminate someone. Let them in, he instructed the doorman. Then turning to Lucia, where's Raphael? In his room, sir, doing his homework. Stay with him upstairs. Don't let him come down while the police are here. Minutes later, 2 police officers accompanied by Christina entered the living room. She maintained a victimized expression, her eyes slightly swollen from obviously forced tears. Mr. Kingston, we have a warrant to investigate the disappearance of jewelry valued at approximately £500,000, explained the older officer, handing him the document. My deceased mother's jewelry, Christina sobbed theatrically. How could you let this happen, Marcus? Marcus remained calm, quickly analyzing the situation. It was obvious that Christina had orchestrated everything as revenge. Officer, these jewels were in our bedroom safe. Only I, my ex-wife, and the housekeeper know the combination. Ex-wife? The officer raised an eyebrow. I filed for divorce yesterday, Marcus explained, and I evicted Mrs. Kingston from the house for mistreating my son. I have video evidence. Christina let out an indignant sound. This is slander. He's trying to divert the subject. The jewelry disappeared, and it could only have been that housekeeper. She's always been envious, always wanted to harm me. Mrs. Lucia has worked for my family for 20 years, Marcus countered. She is absolutely trustworthy. We need to search the house, sir, the second officer informed him. Marcus nodded. Feel free. But first, I'd like to show you something. He turned on the living room television and accessed the security system, rewinding the footage to the previous dawn. The cameras clearly showed Christina entering the master bedroom at 3 in the morning, opening the safe, removing the jewelry box, and putting it in her purse. As you can see, the jewelry was taken by Mrs. Christina herself, hours before she left the house. The officers watched the images carefully. Christina paled. This proves nothing. I was just putting the jewelry in a safer place. And where are they now, madam? Asked the older officer. Christina hesitated, clearly without a prepared answer. The issue isn't the jewelry. She deflected. The issue is that he installed cameras without my consent. That's an invasion of privacy. I installed cameras to protect my son, Marcus replied calmly. And as you can see, it was a wise decision. At that moment, they heard footsteps on the stairs. Raphael slowly descended, supported by his crutches, with Lucia right behind him, trying to stop him. "Sorry, Dr. Kingston." "He insisted on coming," the housekeeper explained. "It's all right." "Lucia." Raphael approached, looking warily at the police and Christina. "Dad, Aunt Christina hid the jewelry under Mrs. Lucia's mattress. Guy saw her do it this morning before she left." A heavy silence fell over the room. Christina's face twisted into a mask of hatred. "You liar!" she accused, taking a step towards the boy, who instinctively flinched. Marcus placed himself between them. "Raphael, are you sure of what you saw?" The boy nodded, gripping his crutches tightly. "She didn't see me because I was in the hallway. She went into Mrs. Lucia's room with the jewelry box and put it under the mattress. Then she talked on the phone with someone, saying she was going to teach that busybody a lesson." The officers exchanged glances. "Can we verify this?" the older one asked. "Of course," Marcus agreed. "This way." In Lucia's small room at the back of the house, the officers lifted the mattress and found the jewelry box exactly as Raphael had described. "This is absurd," Christina protested. "Obviously the maid hid them there and the boy is lying to protect her." "Madam," the older officer intervened, "we have camera footage showing you taking the jewelry from the safe and the testimony of a child who saw you hiding them. Furthermore, you were the one who filed the complaint, stating that the jewelry had been stolen when in fact you hid them yourself. This constitutes malicious prosecution and attempted incrimination of third parties," the other officer added. "Both serious crimes." Christina's face alternated between pallor and red blotches of fury. "You can't believe him. He's manipulating everything." Marcus maintained his composure, placing a hand on Raphael's shoulder. "Officers, I do not intend to press charges against Mrs. Kingston at this time. I merely want it to be noted that the jewelry was not stolen and that the complaint was false." The officers agreed, making notes in their pads. "You should thank your ex-husband's generosity, madam," the older officer commented. "In your place, I would leave discreetly and not cause any more trouble." After the officers and Christina left, Raphael hugged his father tightly. "You believed me. I will always believe you, son, and forgive me for not doing so sooner." That afternoon, as agreed, Marcus met Isabella at the small bakery near the school. Dressed in simple jeans and a floral blouse, without her work uniform, she looked even younger. "Thank you for the invitation," she said, after settling in. "But I confess I'm curious about the real reason." Marcus smiled. "As perceptive as Raphael described you, yes, besides thanking you, I really wanted to talk about him. I'm trying to better understand my son's world, which I now realize I knew very little about." Isabella studied him for a few moments. "You seem like an honest man, though too busy." "I was. I'm redefining priorities." The conversation flowed with surprising ease. Isabella explained that she worked at the school to pay for her pedagogy degree. Raised by her grandmother in a small town in rural Cumberland County, she had moved to Viridian City in search of opportunities. The early loss of her parents in an accident had made her especially attentive to children who showed signs of sadness or loneliness. "That's how I noticed Raphael," she explained. "While other staff members saw only a quiet boy with crutches, I recognized that look. The look of someone carrying a much heavier burden than they should." Marcus felt an immediate connection with this young woman who, despite her own difficulties, found strength to care for others. "You saw what I, as a father, failed to see. Don't blame yourself so much. People like your ex-wife are masters of manipulation. They show what we want to see." "How did you know about her?" Isabella hesitated. "Sometimes when she came to pick up Raphael, I noticed how he transformed. His smile disappeared, his shoulders hunched. And once," she paused, unsure if she should continue. "Please, I need to know." "Once I overheard her in the parking lot, talking on the phone. She was saying something like, 'I can't stand pretending to like this cripple anymore.' Raphael was a few feet away, pretending not to hear, but I saw his face." Isabella swallowed hard. "After that, I started paying more attention. I tried to report it to the principal, but Mrs. Miller, William's mother, is on the school board and a very good friend of your ex. I was warned for causing trouble." Marcus felt a mixture of gratitude and indignation, "and yet, you continued to protect my son. Some battles are worth fighting, even when they seem impossible." In the following weeks, A different routine was established in the Kingston household. Marcus reorganized his commitments to be present in the mornings and late afternoons. He personally took and picked up Raphael from school, whenever possible. Evenings were dedicated to electronic-free dinners, bedtime stories, and genuine conversations. In parallel, his relationship with Isabella evolved naturally. It began with invitations to simple lunches, then a walk in Metropolitan Park with Raphael on the weekend, a children's movie session. There was no pressure or expectations, just the mutual discovery of affinities and shared values. Raphael blossomed every day. His grades improved, he smiled frequently again, and he no longer showed fear when entering the house. Physical therapy, which Christina often forgot to take him to, was resumed with enthusiasm, especially after Isabella suggested complementing it with adapted swimming lessons. The water gives him a freedom that the ground denies, she explained. After the first lesson, where Raphael swam almost unassisted. See how he moves without fear, Marcus watched, marveling, as his son glided through the water with confidence, away from the pitying or curious gaze of others. The emerging happiness, however, met resistance. The social circle Christina frequented began a discreet smear campaign. Malicious comments about how Marcus Kingston had traded a socialite for a cleaner circulated at charity events. Patricia Miller, William's mother, spread insinuations about Marcus's mental sanity, suggesting that business stress had made him imagine non-existent abuses. The hardest blow came when Marcus and Raphael encountered Christina, Patricia, and 5 other elegant women at the same restaurant where they were dining with Isabella. The coincidence seemed too convenient not to have been planned. "Marcus, what a surprise!" exclaimed Christina, approaching their table with false cordiality. Her gaze swept over Isabella from head to toe, lingering on her simple shoes and unpolished nails. "Aren't you going to introduce us?" Marcus immediately recognized the social trap. A confrontation there in front of Raphael would be disastrous. Before he could respond, Isabella took the initiative. "Isabella Moreira," she introduced herself with a calm smile, extending her hand. "I work at Raphael's school." Christina ignored the extended hand. "Oh yes, the cleaning lady, isn't it? How peculiar." Her tone dripped venom. "Patricia mentioned you were getting involved with the support staff, Marcus. But I confess I thought it was an exaggeration." The other women chuckled discreetly, exchanging disdainful glances. Raphael gripped his father's hand under the table. Marcus felt his fury rise, but before he could respond, Isabella spoke again, her voice calm. "Actually, I'm a pedagogical assistant and a pedagogy student, and I believe that a person's worth is not measured by their position, but by the positive impact they have on the lives of others." She smiled at Raphael. "Don't you agree, Raphael?" The boy nodded, visibly more relaxed by Isabella's tranquility. "Isabella taught me to swim without my crutches," he declared proudly. "And now I'm learning to ride an adapted bike, too." Christina seemed momentarily disconcerted by the lack of a negative reaction. "Well, we won't interrupt your family dinner." Her tone made it clear she didn't consider it a real family. "Marcus, my lawyer will contact you regarding the terms of the agreement. I hope you'll be sensible." "I always am, Christina. I've documented everything. Absolutely everything." The veiled threat hung in the air as she walked away, her forced smile already gone. After they left, Isabella sighed. "I'm so sorry about that. I know I put you both in an awkward situation." Marcus took her hand across the table. "You were incredible. You didn't let her rattle us." "It's just the beginning," Isabella warned. "People like her don't give up easily. They'll try to harm your reputation, your company, maybe even your custody of Raphael. Let them try. I have the truth on my side. And now I have both of you too." Raphael watched the interaction with attentive eyes, a small smile on his lips. "Dad, can Isabella come over more often?" "She promised to teach me how to make cookies like her grandma used to." Marcus exchanged a look with Isabella, who blushed slightly. "If she wants to, of course she can," he replied, his eyes still on hers. "It would be a pleasure," Isabella responded. And there was a promise in those words that went beyond cookies. The following week, the law firm representing Christina sent an exorbitant financial settlement proposal. In exchange for withdrawing any legal action related to the mistreatment of Raphael, She demanded half of Marcus's assets, including shares in the construction company. She's bluffing, analyzed Dr. Castro, Marcus's lawyer for over a decade. She knows she can't win with the evidence we have, so she's gambling that you'll pay to avoid a scandal. What do you suggest? A counter-proposal. We offer a small temporary alimony, conditional on complete confidentiality and her commitment not to approach you or Raphael. We'll attach selected excerpts from the recordings as a reminder of what we have. The strategy worked. 3 days later, Christina accepted a minimal settlement, clearly fearing that the recordings would become public and destroy her carefully constructed image. Free from Christina's shadow, life began to find a new rhythm. Raphael progressed in therapies, gaining strength and confidence. At school, after Marcus's intervention, William was suspended for bullying and transferred the following semester. The principal, fearing scandals and potential lawsuits, implemented a rigorous anti-bullying program with special attention to students with special needs. On a sunny Sunday, 3 months after Christina's departure, Marcus organized a picnic in Metropolitan Park. Raphael pedaled animatedly on his adapted bicycle, while Isabella encouraged him, running alongside. Watching them, Marcus felt a certainty grow in his chest. This was the family he should have always had. Judge Dr. Martha Davies's chambers commanded respect with their sobriety. Graduation photos and certificates adorned the walls, while the national flag stood out beside her solid wood desk. Marcus waited alongside his lawyer, Dr. Castro, for the final hearing of the divorce proceedings. "Remember," the lawyer whispered, "regardless of what the opposing party alleges, remain calm. We have all the evidence in our favor." Minutes later, Christina entered accompanied by her lawyer. She wore a sober pastel suit, her hair impeccably styled and discreet makeup, clearly seeking to convey an image of a dedicated and wronged wife. She avoided looking directly at Marcus. The judge entered, everyone stood, and the session began. "We are here to finalize the divorce proceedings between Marcus Henry Kingston and Christina Fontes Kingston," the magistrate began, adjusting her glasses to read the documents. "Before rendering my decision, do the parties wish to make any final considerations?" Christina's lawyer promptly rose. "Your Honor, my client was expelled from her marital home without any legal justification, after dedicating herself fully to the family and especially to her stepson with special needs. The petitioner's allegations are unfounded and based on illegally obtained recordings, which should be disregarded as evidence." Dr. Castro remained serene as he awaited his turn. "Your Honor," he began, "when authorized, the petitioner installed security cameras in his own residence after suspicions of mistreatment of his minor son. The recordings clearly show the respondent's abusive behavior towards the child, including psychological and physical violence." Christina's lawyer interrupted. "This is defamation. My client always treated her stepson as her own child." "We presented a detailed timeline," Dr. Castro continued, ignoring the interruption, "which demonstrates not only the mistreatment of the child, but also the respondent's attempt to incriminate a long-serving family employee for alleged jewelry theft, when in fact she herself hid the items, as proven by the same recordings and witnessed by the minor." The judge carefully leafed through the case file. "Regarding the recordings, I need to clarify one point. They were made in common areas of the residence, correct?" "Yes, Your Honor. Living room, hallways, and kitchen. None in intimate settings," Dr. Castro confirmed. "And they were made with the sole purpose of protecting a vulnerable child from recurrent abuse." The magistrate nodded, making notes. "Considering the recent jurisprudence of the Superior Court of Justice on the matter, I understand that the recordings are valid as evidence, given that they were made to protect a minor at risk within the parent's own residence." Christina visibly paled, while her lawyer whispered something in her ear. "Ladies and gentlemen, I have carefully analyzed all the probative material," the judge declared after a few minutes of reflection, "and my decision is as follows. I decree the divorce of the couple without division of assets, considering the prenuptial agreement established and the short period of union. I further determine that the respondent pay compensation for moral damages to the minor Raphael Kingston, to be administered by the father until he reaches adulthood." Christina abruptly stood up. "This is absurd." He manipulated everything. "Madam, control yourself or you will be removed," the judge warned severely. "I am forwarding copies of the evidence to the public prosecutor's office for investigation of possible crimes against a vulnerable person. The protective measures in favor of the minor are maintained, prohibiting any approach or contact by the respondent." Defeated, Christina collected her purse and quickly left the room. Her lawyer, visibly embarrassed, collected the documents and followed her after a brief nod to Dr. Castro. In the hallway, Marcus breathed a sigh of relief. "It went better than we expected," Dr. Castro commented. The judge was strict but fair. "Christina should be grateful we didn't extend the case to the criminal sphere." "I don't seek revenge, only justice and protection for my son," Marcus replied. "Now we can truly move forward." Upon leaving the courthouse, Marcus found Isabella and Raphael waiting in the car. The boy was engrossed in a book, while she corrected papers for her college students where she was interning. "How did it go?" she asked, concern evident in her eyes. "It's over," he simply replied, allowing himself a genuine smile. "Officially divorced with protective measures for Raphael and no asset division." Isabella squeezed his hand, understanding the weight that had been lifted from his shoulders. "Can we celebrate with ice cream?" Raphael asked, looking up from his book, clearly having paid more attention to the conversation than he let on. Marcus laughed, feeling a lightness he hadn't experienced in months. "Ice cream is always a great idea, champ." The following weeks brought significant transformations. Marcus decided that the old mansion held too many memories and proposed a change. "What do you think about looking for a new house?" he asked Raphael during breakfast. "Say a place that's just ours, so we can start over." The boy considered the proposal seriously. "Can it be near school? And have a pool for me to practice swimming? And a room for when Isabella comes to visit?" Marcus exchanged a meaningful glance with Isabella, who blushed slightly as she served juice. "I think we can arrange all that," he replied, smiling at both of them. They found a cozy house in Willow Creek Estates, with a large garden, a heated pool, and most importantly, no steps or other architectural barriers that would hinder Raphael's mobility. The adaptation project included gentle ramps, discreet grab bars, and a compact elevator connecting the 2 floors. Lucia, the faithful housekeeper, gained a comfortable apartment attached to the service area, much more dignified than the small back room of the old mansion. "It's a new phase for all of us," Marcus explained to her, "and you are an essential part of this family." The move coincided with a restructuring at Kingston Construction. After deep reflection on his priorities, Marcus decided to slow the frantic pace of expansion to dedicate more time to his family. He delegated more responsibilities to trusted executives and committed to not working after 6 p.m. or on weekends. His relationship with Isabella evolved naturally. She completed her college internship and was hired as an assistant teacher at a model school for children with special needs. They shared values, a worldview, and above all their love for Raphael. At first, she hesitated to sleep over when the boy was there, concerned about the impression it would create, but Raphael was the first to question. "Why can't Isabella stay here always? Aren't you two dating?" The childlike frankness broke down barriers, and soon Isabella was spending more nights at the house than in her small rented apartment. On one of those nights, after putting Raphael to bed, Marcus found Isabella on the balcony, watching the illuminated city. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, embracing her from behind. "How life comes full circle," she replied, leaning back against him. "A year ago, I was just a student working as a school assistant to pay the bills, worried about a sad boy who barely spoke. Now I'm here, building a life I never imagined possible, regretting it." She turned to face him. "Not for a second, but sometimes I wonder if I'm enough. Your life is so it's grand. I'm just a beginner teacher from simple origins. You are exactly what Raphael and I needed, someone real, authentic, with a huge heart." He caressed her face. "I wouldn't trade that for anything." That night, under the Viridian City stars, Marcus asked Isabella to marry him, not with an ostentatious ring or a grand production, but with sincere words about family values and the future he wanted to build alongside her and Raphael. "I just want you to know what you're getting into," he joked, after she emotionally accepted. "We're a complicated duo, Raphael and I. The most incredible duo I've ever met," she replied, through tears and smiles. The news was received with joy by Raphael the next morning. "So Isabella is going to be my real mom?" he asked, his eyes shining. "If you want her to be," she replied cautiously. "I don't intend to replace the memory of your mother, Raphael. My mom Helen is in heaven," he declared with the surprising wisdom of children, "but I think she'd be happy that I have you now." The wedding ceremony was intimate, held in the garden of their new home on a sunny spring Saturday. Only close friends, a few colleagues of Marcus and Isabella's from college and her family, her elderly grandmother, who raised her, and 2 cousins from rural Cumberland County. Raphael, proud in his navy blue suit, walked Isabella down the improvised aisle under the jabuticaba tree, leaning on crutches specially decorated for the occasion with white ribbons. During the exchange of vows, Isabella surprised everyone by addressing not only Marcus, but also Raphael. "To you, my little hero, I promise to always listen, respect your limits, and celebrate every achievement. I promise never to try to replace your mother, but to build our own path of love and trust. And I promise to always believe in you, even when the world doubts." There wasn't a dry eye in the garden when Raphael, emotional, handed over the rings and hugged his new mother for a long time. Their honeymoon was a week in Florianopolis, the 3 of them together, exploring adapted beaches and trails, proving that family is who we choose to walk beside us, regardless of blood ties. Upon returning to Viridian City, a surprise awaited Isabella during breakfast, a positive pregnancy test on the table, next to her favorite fruit plate. "What is this?" she asked, confused, looking at Marcus and Raphael, who smiled conspiratorially. "I saw you putting it in the bathroom drawer," Raphael explained. "And then crying alone in your room. I thought you were sad, but Dad said sometimes people cry from happiness too." Isabella covered her face with her hands, emotional. "I was going to tell you today. I wanted to be sure first. I'm 6 weeks along." Marcus hugged her, feeling immense gratitude for the life they had built together. "Am I going to have a little brother?" Raphael asked, excited. "Or a little sister," Isabella corrected. "It's too early to tell." "Doesn't matter," the boy declared. "I'll teach him everything, or her. To swim, to ride an adapted bike, to write stories." The pregnancy proceeded smoothly, with Raphael actively participating in every stage, accompanying medical appointments, helping choose the name, preparing the baby's room. With each ultrasound, his enthusiasm grew, especially when they discovered it would be a girl. "Let's call her Helen, like my first mom," he suggested, surprising everyone with his sensitivity. "Are you sure, son?" Marcus asked, emotional. "Yes, that way she'll have a little bit of my first mom and a little bit of Isabella. Helen Isabella." The suggestion was unanimously accepted, a tribute that united the past and present in a promise of the future. As the family expanded, Marcus implemented significant changes at Kingston Construction. He created an inclusive hiring program, offering opportunities for people with disabilities and in vulnerable situations. He sponsored the renovation of public schools to make them accessible, and established a scholarship fund for young people from disadvantaged communities to study architecture and engineering. "We are building more than buildings," he explained to shareholders, many initially skeptical. "We are building citizenship." Surprisingly, financial results improved. The company's image strengthened, attracting clients and investors aligned with social values. The new perspectives brought by diverse employees resulted in innovative projects and creative solutions to old problems. On a rainy afternoon, when Isabella was 7 months pregnant, Marcus received an unexpected visit to his office. Christina, almost unrecognizable without her impeccable makeup and designer clothes, waited in the reception area. "She insists she needs to speak with you." "Sir?" the secretary explained, uncomfortable. "She said it's important." Marcus hesitated. He hadn't seen his ex-wife since the divorce hearing, almost a year earlier. Cautiously, he allowed her to enter, keeping the door open and the secretary nearby. "What do you want, Christina?" he asked coldly. She seemed to have aged a decade. The arrogant gaze had given way to a tired expression. "I came to ask for a job," she said directly. "No one else will hire me in Viridian City. Your name carries weight, and it seems everyone knows that I—" She stopped, unable to admit her mistakes. "That you mistreated my son? That you tried to incriminate an innocent person? That you lied and manipulated?" Christina lowered her eyes, I'm desperate, Marcus. I lost everything. My friends, my reputation, my contacts. Not even the alimony you pay me is enough, with all doors closed. Marcus observed her for a few moments, torn between resentment and compassion. Why should I help you after everything? Because you're not like me, she simply replied. You never were. The answer caught him off guard. After a few moments of reflection, he made a decision. I can offer you an administrative position in the Human Resources Department. Modest salary, no privileges or authority. We are launching a social responsibility program for people who need a second chance, and you certainly fit that profile. Christina's eyes widened in surprise. Are you serious? Completely. But there are non-negotiable conditions. You will never approach my family, including Raphael. You will never mention our personal history in the workplace. And any attempt at manipulation or inappropriate behavior will result in immediate dismissal. There will be no second chance of the second chance. She nodded slowly, processing the terms. And one more thing, Marcus added. You will have to undergo regular therapy on your own. I cannot force you to be a better person, but I can demand that you try. Why are you doing this? She asked, genuinely confused. Not for you, Christina, but because I believe people can change when they face the consequences of their actions. And because my son taught me that forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, but refusing to perpetuate the cycle of resentment. 2 weeks later, Helen Isabella was born on a summer dawn, bringing a new dimension of joy to the family. Raphael instantly took on his role as protective older brother, marveling at every detail of the little one. Her perfect tiny fingers, dark hair, powerful cry. She's so small, but so strong, he commented, amazed, as he held his sister in his arms for the first time. Just like you, Isabella replied, caressing her stepson's hair with the same tenderness she dedicated to the newborn. Watching the three of them together in the hospital bed, Marcus felt an overwhelming emotion. He had lost Helen, his first wife, so tragically. He had failed Raphael for so long. He had been deceived by Christina, blind to her abuses, and yet there they were, a rebuilt family, stronger precisely because of the fractures they had faced and overcome together. That night, alone on the house balcony, while Isabella nursed Helen and Raphael finally fell asleep after the day's excitement, Marcus mentally revisited the path taken. How could he have been so absent? How had he not noticed the signs of abuse, Raphael's pain, Lucia's veiled comments, Christina's clearly performative behavior? The answer came as a whisper in the night breeze. He was building concrete empires while neglecting the most important foundations, those of his own family. The irony was not lost on him. He, an expert in solid and secure structures, had left vulnerable the construction that truly mattered. Never again, he promised aloud, like a solemn oath to the stars. Never again will I fail to see what truly matters. 15 years had passed since that promise under the stars. Time had left its marks on everyone. Silver threads now mingled with Marcus's dark hair, while expression lines framed Isabella's always gentle eyes. Raphael, at 22, had become a tall and determined young man who still used a cane for support, but whose physical limitation had never defined his trajectory. On that sunny Saturday morning, the auditorium of Liberty Square Law School was packed for the graduation ceremony. Anxious family members occupied every available space, cameras in hand to capture the solemn moment. I'm nervous, Marcus confessed, adjusting his impeccable tie for the third time. After facing multi-million-pound negotiations and restructuring an entire company, you're nervous about a graduation? Isabella teased, affectionately squeezing his hand. It's different. He hesitated, searching for the right words. This is the result of everything that matters. Helen, now a 15-year-old teenager with her mother's curly hair and her father's keen gaze, rolled her eyes with feigned impatience. Dad, relax. Raphael is the class speaker, remember? He was born for this. Exactly why I'm nervous, Marcus confessed. He's going to talk about our story. In front of all these people. The family took seats in the front row. Lucia, now an elderly woman with completely white hair, but still strong and lucid in her early 70s, sat beside them, emotional. Who would have thought, Dr. Kingston, that timid little boy with crutches would become a lawyer? He always had that strength within him, Isabella replied. He just needed space and confidence to show it. The dean opened the ceremony with the traditional speech about responsibility and professional ethics. Tributes to professors followed, and the individual calling of the graduates, who crossed the stage to applause to receive their diplomas. When it was Raphael's turn, a different murmur ran through the auditorium. Many knew his story, or had read about it in the Voices of Resilience project, a collaborative book on overcoming adversity that he had helped organize during college. Raphael walked onto the stage with firm steps, discreetly leaning on the personalized cane Helen had given him for his last birthday, a handcrafted gift with carvings representing each important phase of his life. He received his diploma with a broad smile, hugged the dean and professors, and headed to the podium for the class speech. 15 years ago, he began, his clear, confident voice echoing through the silent auditorium. I was a 7-year-old boy who could barely lift his head. A boy who believed the lies he was told, that he was a burden, that he was inadequate, that he didn't deserve to be heard. Marcus felt Isabella's hand squeeze his, while silent tears streamed down Lucia's face. Today, I stand before you not because I am exceptionally intelligent or talented, but because someone decided to listen to me. His eyes met his father's in the audience. My father disguised himself as a driver to discover the truth I was afraid to tell. He installed cameras to prove what no one wanted to see. He confronted an entire system that preferred to sweep the violence happening at home under the rug. A respectful silence filled the auditorium. I chose law because I learned early that justice is not an abstract concept. It is a daily practice, made up of small acts of courage. It is filming when no one believes. It is reporting when everyone prefers silence. It is protecting those who cannot defend themselves. Raphael paused, taking a sip of water. Our class is graduating in a country that still normalizes many forms of violence, where children continue to be silenced, where appearance still matters more than character, where economic and social power often overrides truth. It will be us as lawyers who decide which side of this story we want to occupy. Helen listened attentively, pride evident in her gaze. At 15, she already showed the same social sensitivity as her brother. Although she channeled her energy into medicine, she was in her first year of high school, in an advanced program, and already spoke with conviction about pediatric neurology. I'm not here to tell a story of individual triumph, Raphael continued. I am here to remind you that no one saves themselves alone. I had my father, who faced his own mistakes and redefined his priorities. I had Lucia, he pointed to the emotional housekeeper in the audience, who risked her job to protect me when everyone else was silent. I had Isabella, who taught me that family is who chooses to stand by your side in difficult times. And I had a sister who, even though she was born after the worst had passed, showed me the importance of looking forward without forgetting the path we've taken. Marcus could no longer hold back his tears. He remembered the day when, disguised as a driver, he heard his son whisper the truth that would change their lives forever. How that whisper had transformed into this strong, clear voice that now inspired an entire audience. As I receive this diploma today, I make a personal vow to use every paragraph, every precedent, every legal resource possible to defend children like I once was, to give voice to those who have been silenced, to transform pain into purpose. The audience erupted in applause. Some professors discreetly wiped their eyes. And to you, my colleagues, I make a request. When a child says something is wrong, believe them. When a truth is inconvenient, defend it anyway. When the system fails, be the exception that makes a difference. Raphael concluded with the phrase that had become the class motto. The law can be a shield or a sword. May we always use it to protect, never to harm. Thank you. The entire auditorium rose in a standing ovation. Marcus hugged Isabella and Helen, overflowing with emotion. They had come a long way since those dark days in the old mansion in Belgravia Heights. At the reception after the ceremony, while Raphael received congratulations from colleagues and professors, Marcus watched from afar, absorbing his son's transformation. He approached when the young man finally had a moment alone. Your speech was incredible, son, Raphael smiled. That smile that still held traces of the 7-year-old boy. Did I talk too much about you? You said enough. But do you know what impressed me most? You didn't mention Christina once. Not to accuse her, nor to expose her. The young man nodded, pensive. It wasn't about her. It never was. Marcus felt a wave of pride. His son had learned the hardest lesson, that forgiving doesn't mean absolving, but refusing to be defined by resentment. She asks about you sometimes, Marcus commented cautiously. Raphael raised an eyebrow. How is she? There's Keaton better. 15 years is long enough for a lot to change. She started as an administrative assistant. Now she coordinates the company's social responsibility program. She never tried to approach us again as she promised. She does therapy regularly. She's changed a lot. I'm happy for her, Raphael said with surprising sincerity. I don't wish anyone ill. Just a safe distance. At that moment, Helen approached with a tray of canapés. I'm starving and you two are over here philosophizing in the corner? The three laughed. Helen had a knack for bringing lightness even to the most solemn moments. And what did you think of your brother's speech, young lady? Marcus asked. He crushed it, obviously, she replied, hugging Raphael sideways. But he could have mentioned that I fixed his first cane with tape and glitter when I was 5. It was my first medical act. Isabella joined them, wrapping the three in a collective hug that brought forth laughter and a few more tears. I'm so proud of all of you, she said, of how we built this together step by step, day by day. On the way home, where a more intimate celebration awaited with close friends, Marcus took an unplanned detour. He parked the car in front of a renovated old mansion in the Harmony district, with a discreet sign at the entrance, Helen's House, Shelter and Legal Support for Vulnerable Children. What are we doing here? Raphael asked, confused. Marcus and Isabella exchanged knowing glances. Your graduation gift, his father explained. Kingston Construction renovated this historic building, and the New Horizons Foundation, which your mother directs, will manage the program. But what exactly is this? An integrated center for child victims of domestic violence, Isabella responded, with psychological and medical assistance and now legal advice, which will be coordinated by you if you accept, Marcus added. Part-time to start while you finish your specialization. Raphael was speechless, looking alternately at the mansion and his parents. You named it after your biological mother, yes, Marcus confirmed. Helen deserves to be remembered, not only as someone who left, but as the origin of something that transforms lives. Helen, the teenager, watched the scene with bright eyes. And guess who's going to be the volunteer intern during school holidays? She asked excitedly. I'll help with the younger kids while you handle the boring paperwork. Raphael finally found his voice, choked with emotion. You guys are impossible, you know? How am I going to maintain my image as a serious lawyer if I keep crying like this in public? Everyone laughed, that liberating laughter that only families who have weathered storms together can share. That night, after the celebration, when everyone had retired, Marcus and Isabella sat on the house balcony, as they had for so many years. Now with more wrinkles, grey hair, but the same look of complicity. 15 years, she murmured, leaning back against her husband's chest. It seems like yesterday you showed up at that bakery, all awkward, wanting to thank me for taking care of Raphael. I was a disaster as a father. You were a father learning to be a father. We are all imperfect, Marcus. What matters is the courage to acknowledge mistakes and the willingness to change. He kissed the top of her head, inhaling the familiar lavender scent she always wore. You know what Raphael told me today at graduation? That the real miracle wasn't him recovering from the traumas, but us building a real family from such improbable fragments. He always had that poetic sensibility, Isabella smiled. He must have gotten it from you. From me? I'm just a builder of buildings, and of invisible bridges, between people, between pasts and futures, between pain and hope. That's also construction, you know. Marcus's cell phone vibrated. It was a message from Raphael. Dad, I couldn't say this during the party with so many people around, but thank you. Not just for the graduation gift, but for that day 15 years ago, when you dressed up as a driver just to listen to me. It was the first time I truly felt seen. Marcus showed the message to Isabella, who wiped away a tear. See? Bridge builder, she whispered. The next morning, on his first day as a legal advisor at Helen's house, Raphael found a folder on his desk with his first case. An 8-year-old girl who used crutches due to a congenital condition and showed signs of neglect and possible psychological abuse by her stepmother. The coincidence was too strong to ignore. As he opened the file and saw the child's photo, large, sad eyes, shoulders hunched in a defensive posture, Raphael felt a chill of recognition. It was like looking at his own past. "Schedule a meeting with the multidisciplinary team for today," he instructed his assistant, "and prepare the documents for an urgent protective order request." While organizing his notes, Raphael reflected on the cycle that was simultaneously closing and opening. 15 years ago, he was the silence child. Now he would be the voice others couldn't find. Across town, in his office at Kingston Construction, Marcus also began his day with an important meeting. The company's social responsibility program, now nationally recognized, was preparing for its largest expansion yet, a project to adapt 50 public schools in vulnerable areas, making them fully accessible for children with physical disabilities. The program coordinator was presenting the final details when Marcus noticed her slightly anxious expression. "Any problems?" Christina, the middle-aged woman, dressed with an elegant simplicity that bore no resemblance to the ostentation of 15 years ago, hesitated briefly. "Actually, Mr. Kingston, I heard about the inauguration of Helen's house, and I would like to offer some weekly volunteer hours there. Not with the children, obviously," she hastened to add, "just in the administrative part. I know your son will be coordinating the legal sector, and I completely understand if the answer is no." Marcus studied her for a few moments. In the 15 years she had worked at the company, Christina had gradually transformed. Arrogance had given way to genuine humility. Unbridled ambition had been replaced by a clear purpose. She had never sought promotions or privileges, only the opportunity to do meaningful work. "I'll consult Raphael," he finally replied. "The decision will be his." Christina nodded, grateful for the consideration. "That's fair. I don't expect forgiveness, just the chance to contribute positively." At the end of the day, Marcus shared the request with Raphael during a family dinner. The young lawyer listened attentively in silence. "What do you think?" Marcus asked after explaining the situation. Raphael reflected for a few moments, thoughtfully toying with his graduation ring. "You know, Dad, today I handled my first case. A girl very much like me at 8 years old. And I realized something important. History repeats itself because cycles are not broken." Isabella and Helen watched the conversation in respectful silence. "What Christina did to me was terrible. It left scars I carry to this day. But she was also a product of a cycle, and now she seems to be trying to break it in her own way." "So you would approve?" Marcus asked, surprised. "With conditions. Strictly administrative work, no direct contact with the children, and constant supervision. Not out of revenge, but out of caution." "It's a wise decision," Isabella commented. "It's not about forgiveness," Raphael clarified. "It's about allowing someone to use their own mistake to prevent others from repeating it. Perhaps that is the true meaning of redemption." That night, contemplating the family gathered in the living room, Isabella correcting papers for her college students where she now lectured, Helen bent over a complex anatomical model for a school project, Raphael reviewing legal documents with the same concentration he had shown since childhood, Marcus felt a profound sense of completeness. Life had not been a fairy tale. They had faced pain, betrayals, fears, but together they had transformed every wound into strength, every doubt into determination. The family they built was not perfect. It was real, forged in adversity and sustained by the love chosen daily. From the window, the lights of Viridian City twinkled like terrestrial stars. The same city that had witnessed his worst moment now observed his greatest achievement. Not the buildings he had erected, but the hearts he had helped rebuild. "What are you thinking about?" Isabella asked, approaching silently. "About the question I asked myself 15 years ago, that night after discovering what was happening with Raphael. How do you protect those who depend on us when no one is looking?" She held his hand, intertwining her fingers with his. "And you found the answer." "We found it together," he smiled. "It's looking even when it hurts, listening even when it scares, believing even when it seems impossible, and above all, loving not just with the heart but with concrete actions every day." Outside, the Viridian City night ran its course. Thousands of stories unfolded simultaneously, some of pain, others of hope. In the Kingston Morera home, The story that began with a father disguised as a driver seeking the truth continued to be written, no longer with tears of pain, but with the indelible ink of love that rebuilds, restores, and redeems. End of story. Dear listeners, we hope Marcus, Raphael, and Isabella's journey has touched your hearts. To discover more stories like this, we've prepared a special playlist, Invisible Bonds, where real families are formed by daily choices of love and courage. Find it by clicking the button on the left of the screen. If this narrative has stirred emotions in you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, leave your like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Every day we bring unique stories that explore the depth of human feelings and the capacity for resilience that exists within each of us. Which character touched your heart the most? What would you have done in Marcus's place upon discovering the truth? Tell us in the comments. Your participation is what brings these stories to life. Until our next emotional encounter.